All right, one last video, AP Stats students. Let's go, Hornets. We're going to transform with powers and roots. Just review this from the day 1 video as we move into chapter 12.2, day 2. What we did in the previous videos, when we have experience or theory, suggests that relationship between two variables described by a power model. Here, power model this form. You now have two strategies for transforming the data to achieve linearity. And this is the one I really suggest you do. Again, not a big fan of the second one. But if you believe it's the relationship is to the second power, if it's just squared, well, just take your x values, square them, compare them to y's, and draw that scatter plot. If you happen to believe that they're to the third power, there's some relationship among volume, then go ahead and compare them, and it should linearize that. But the question is, what if you don't know? What if you don't have that prior experience, that you don't know what that power model is? Well, this is what we're going to do. So, to achieve linearity from a power model, we can apply the logarithm. We apply the logarithm transformation to both variables. Both variables. So, a power model again has this form: y equals ax to some power. Okay. If we take the logarithm of both sides of this equation, if we believe it is a power model, if we believe we have a power model, but you don't know what power it is, take the logarithm of both sides, of both the x and the y. And then making sure you know your log properties. What I have originally here is log of y equals log of axp. So basically what I did is, again, I took the log of this side and the log of this side up here. Through a little bit of just property manipulation of this part right here, what we can do when we're multiplying, we really can separate them apart as addition. And then the other property is I can take that exponent and I can bring it out front of that property. So ended up with this. So generally, the equation would be log of y equals log of a plus p times the log of x. Well, this does now show a linear relationship between the log of x and the log of y. We got the log of y equals, this is sort of like my big A value, plus there's like my b value and times my x. That's what they're saying here. Look carefully. The power p, this piece right there, in the power model becomes the slope of the straight line. That p is really like our slope. So, if a power model describes the relationship between two variables, a scatter plot of the logarithms of both variables should produce a linear pattern. And then we can fit a least squared regression line to the transform data and use the linear model to make predictions. So, here's an example. On July 31st, 2005, a team of astronomers announced that they had discovered what appeared to be a new planet in our solar system. They had first observed this object, almost 2 years earlier using a telescope at Caltech's Palomar Observatory in California. Originally named UB313, the potential planet is bigger than Pluto and has an average distance of about 9.5 billion miles from the Sun. And for reference, Earth is about 93 million miles from the Sun. Could this new astronomical body, now called Eris, be a new planet? At the time of the discovery, there were 9 known planets in our solar system. So here are the data on the distance from the Sun and period of revolution of those planets. Note that distance is measured in astronomical units, AUs. And then AU is the number of Earth distances the object is from the Sun. So you can see Earth is obviously then just one Earth distance from the Sun. So, if you plot this data, if you take the distance in AUs, so this is our X data right here, plot it versus the period of revolution, that's our Y data over here, we can see that we get sort of a curved relationship, okay, between distance from the Sun in period of revolution. Okay, here's our problem. The graphs below show the results of two different transformations of the data. We did nothing to the distance, but we took the natural log of the y value. Well, this certainly does not straighten the data. It doesn't linearize this. But if we took the natural log of both the x and the y, it does look like our data becomes quite linear. So to explain why a power model provide a more appropriate description of the relationship between period of revolution and distance from the sun than an exponential model, well, the scatter plot of just the natural log of the period versus distance is clearly curved, so an exponential model would not be appropriate. Because if it was exponential, remember a log undoes an exponential, so if it was exponential, if the original data was exponential, if we go back to this data right back here, if you happen to believe this was an exponential growth model, well, a logging of the y's should just undo that, should linearize the data, and it didn't. So this can't be an exponential model. But if, as we see, if you do the log of both the x and the y, it has a strong linear pattern, and then a power model would be more appropriate. So that's kind of how we can tell the difference. Should we be using a power model or should we be using an exponential model for our data? If I take the log of both the x and y and it straightens it out, a power model would fit the data better. If I just take the log of the y's and it were to straighten it, then the original data would have been an exponential data, an exponential model. Well, Minitab output from a linear regression analysis on the transform data is shown below. It says give the equation of least squares regression line and be sure to define any variables you used. Now here's the key thing, is our x's are we actually took like the ln of the x's. Here, again, we took the ln of the y's. So our calculator doesn't, or the Minitab output doesn't always necessarily know how we put that transform data in. So you got to make sure you represent that right, because our equations are always going to be in the form of, when we linearize it, y equals a plus b times our x. So when we look at putting these values in, here's our a value. It's our constant, our coefficient constant. That's what goes in down here for our a value. Our b value is this value right here. That's our slope. But now remember, this is this b value. That's the coefficient of our x variable. But remember now that x really is the natural log of that distance. You must remember the y is also the natural log of the period. So we could just write this as natural log of y hat equals 0.000254 plus 1.49986 natural log of x. And then we can use this to predict as well. So we'll look back at Eris, which was 9.5 billion miles, or 102.15 astronomical units from the sun. What we can do is we can put some of these numbers in. We can put that 102 in for that distance. Do a little calculating here. Find out that the natural log of this period, the natural log of y, is equal to that 6.939. And then what we can do is use some of our properties of solving logs to figure out that it's 1,032 years to look at how long it would take for one revolution. So a residual plot for the linear regression in part B is shown below. If I look at that residual plot, I see a definite pattern to this. So do you expect the prediction in part C to be too high, too low, or just right? Well, Eris's value is 6.939, which would fall at the far right of the residual plot, where all the residuals are positive. Because the residual equals the actual y minus the predicted y seems likely to be positive, we'd expect our prediction to be too low. All right. So sometimes the relationship between y and x is based on repeated multiplication by a constant factor. That is, each time x increases by 1 unit, the value of y is multiplied by b. We're going to look at an exponential model. That has the form y equals ab to the x. Our x is in the exponent right there. So our exponential model, again, if we believe it's an exponential model, if we take the log of both sides, using a little bit of the properties here, we can separate this piece out here. If that's multiplication, we tend to write that as separated out, expanded out as addition. And then you can always bring that exponent out front to write that. It says the crucial property of the logarithm for our purpose is that if a variable grows exponentially, its logarithm grows linearly. So, another problem. Gordon Moore, one of the founders of Intel Corporation, predicted in 1965 that the number of transistors on an integrated circuit chip would double every 18 months. This is Moore's law, one way to measure the revolution in computing. Here are the data on the dates and the number of transistors for Intel microprocessors. So as we can see in the data over here. Okay. This figure 12.17 shows the growth in the number of transistors on a computer chip from 1971 to 2010. So we'll plot this. 0 is the number of years since 1970, so there's 1971 right there. And then 2010 will be out here. Okay. That's 40 years past 1970. So if Moore's law is correct, then an exponential model should describe the relationship between the variables. This definitely certainly looks like an exponential model, an exponential growth model. So, a scatter plot of the natural logarithm of the number of transistors on a computer versus years since 1970 is shown. So you notice here we believe that that original data model was an exponential. So we just took the natural log of the y's. We did nothing with the x's. And we can see that the data really becomes quite linear. So if an exponential model describes the relationship between two variables, then we expect a scatter plot. What we should do again is leave the x's alone and take the log of the y's, because then it should linearize data. So if it's exponential, do nothing to the x's, log the y's. So here it says, shows the scatter plot of the natural log of the transistors versus years 1970 has a fairly linear pattern, especially through the year 2000. So when you get to 2000 right about here, you can see that's pretty linear. It gets a little shaky up here, maybe a little skewed to the left in our normal probability plots. So again, that's kind of the emphasis, is exponential model to start with, just log the y's. If you have no idea what it is, log both, the x and the y. So here's some of the data from a Minitab output. So we can create our equation, and since we just took the natural log of the y's, here's still our a value, our slope, and now remember we didn't do anything to the x's, so that's just plain simply still just x. So we could say this is natural log of our y hat equals to 7.0647 plus 0.36583x. And we can use that model to predict. So if I wanted to predict in 2020, which was 50 years since 1970, I just put 50 in for that year since 1970 and go ahead and calculate that value using our math skills from before. And we'll review a little bit of those log properties in class to make sure you're solid on those from advanced algebra. So if we look at a residual plot for the linear regression data, we can see that the residual plot shows a distinct pattern, with the residuals going from positive to negative to positive. So you can see it's like positive, goes down to negative, and then comes back up to positive as we move from left to right. But the residuals are small in size. You know, we can look at the not very big that we have here. So the scatter plot of the transfer is much more linear than the original scatter plot. So we feel reasonably comfortable that predictions could be made with that formula. There's a summary of the last section.